creators and influencers, what do you think of their role in terms of amplifying brand messages and IMSA?
It's not just do they have 10 million followers. It's do the 10 million followers probably also follow you.
The brands that are outside of motorsports, is there a different kind of approach?
It's not just analytics and measurement. It's figuring out how to take all of that attention that you're getting and monetize it.
DougO'Donnell, welcome to The Creative Drive. Doug, let's start with your official title. What is your official title at IMSA?
I am head of brand and digital strategy at IMSA.
And what exactly does that entail?
So it's a role that is over PR, communications, and digital channels.
So you have an interesting background,
Mm-hmm.
right? You were with the San Antonio Spurs, right?
Yes.
Yes, the basketball team. So how did that transition happen?
Mm-hmm.
And what did you learn with the Spurs?
Yeah, that was a great role. And it kind of happened by happenstance. My wife was actually recruited for a position down in Texas, and we had moved there. And about a week after we had moved there, that job became open, and I was able to get in early on that position. And so I went through the interview process, and it was a perfect role for me because it was really building from scratch a digital business unit within the Spurs. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, they didn't have a dedicated digital role. And when I came in, there was just a couple of positions that were running social media and email marketing, a lot of the traditional aspects of what the NBA was doing at the time, which was ticket sales, marketing, and email marketing primarily. So I came in and we built a team and developed a digital strategy and really grew it to one of the top performers in the league. And it wasn't just the Spurs. It was an interesting role in that it was Spurs Sports and Entertainment. So they have 5 teams. At the time, they had 5 teams. They had a soccer team, a hockey team, the WNBA team, and a G League team as well. So we were responsible for all the digital channels across all of those teams.
Hey, do you really think that cafe Wi-Fi is safe? Well, think again. Public Wi-Fi can be a hacker's playground. With the man-in-the-middle attack, cyber criminals set up fake networks like cafe-free Wi-Fi. Intercept everything you do online. They can do that. They can steal passwords, spy on your emails, and intercept the data you send and receive. The fix is something like NordVPN. Encrypt your internet traffic so hackers get nothing. Not your logins, not your banking info. Your emails are safe, and not even those Fast and the Furious memes. So right now you can grab an exclusive NordVPN deal plus 4 extra months for free. Just head to nordvpn.com/racer and stay protected. It's risk-free and you get a 30-day money-back guarantee. So stay safe, keep those hackers away, and sign up now. Back to the show. What did you learn the most from that experience?
The most, probably at that time, it was kind of an incubator in all the teams. All the teams were trying to figure out this new realm of social media. It was around 2015.
Okay.
So some of the teams had started to get more strategic with how they were reaching out to fans and building community based on their fan bases. And at the end of the day, all those teams are brands, right?
Yeah.
And they had some teams had more rabid fans than others. Some teams had better winning records than others. But at the end of the day, in sports, especially in sports content, it's entertainment. So a lot of the content that we were tapping into was the highlights and short format content that was at a time when the algorithms weren't tight yet, everything was still wide open.
Yeah.
You could experiment a lot. You could learn quickly. And we were able to tap into that high volume and grew our channels pretty quickly with that. Fan base was really interested in seeing this stuff. And I think one other aspect too is the Spurs was a unique environment in that they were a very reserved team, right? It's a team first environment. Most of the other teams are posting dunks and individual players and highlighting team members. And we had Tim Duncan and we had David Robinson, that kind of legacy. A lot of our players didn't have social media accounts.
Wow. Okay.
They're very humble.
Right.
And so the unique aspect at the Spurs from a creative standpoint was this team first culture that was on the court. We had to apply that in social media. So we couldn't post the stars all the time. We had to post a star and then the rookie and balance it out. So all of our posts were very balanced across the team. And they liked us to really bring the newest members of the team to the forefront as much.
Yeah.
It's
a lot of times, we hear like brands want to start a social media, some kind of a strategy rollout.
Yeah.
But they don't have like their brand identity. And it really goes back to like, what is this team like, or what is this brand? Like, what are you trying to do here? And a lot of times it's more about like, we talk a lot about the strategy and the rollout and the tactics, but what do you do about, so when you came to IMSA, was that already all set up for you? Or did you have to really start from like the ground zero of like brand identity, definition, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think in roles that I've had throughout my career, all of the above, right? You've had, I worked at a digital agency where we worked for Procter & Gamble, where everything was just like super defined.
Yes.
And then you had situations where there was no work that had been done on brand whatsoever. I think when I came to IMSA, it was interesting because there's a lot that I didn't know about IMSA. But I'd always been a fan of motorsports and in particular sports cars. I love the sports car side of it and car culture. And I saw the opportunity there at IMSA. There was opportunity to grow beyond just the racing, the core racing fan. And one of the things that I have a habit of doing when I come into a new organization is building out an ecosystem. So I've noticed at a lot of places that I've worked, it's been a long time since especially the creative teams have sat down and mapped everything out. And depending on how big the organization is, a lot of times they don't even know how many websites they have out there or how many social media accounts are out there. And so from a brand perspective at IMSA, when I first came there, I just asked people in the hallways, what's IMSA? And kind of got a sense for it was challenging because it's so complicated. So it was an insight to me that the first thing that usually came out of people's mouth, people that had been there for 1 year or 10 years or 20 years, was explaining it. Oh, well, it's multi-class racing. It has this many classes and this many OEMs, and they're trying to explain it. And if you're trying to do that with a new fan, it's really hard to get them excited about it. And so, after we had some of those insights where we knew if we were going to build IMSA into a brand, we were going to have to figure out how to make it super interesting with brevity. And so we went to work on that. We did this ecosystem. We built out the ecosystem to understand what are all of our digital channels, what are all of our, CRM, email marketing. And then once we had that figured out, okay, well, what type of content needs to live on all of these platforms in a way that resonates with that particular audience? And we could tell on our social accounts how ages kind of skew on Facebook versus a TikTok versus a YouTube. And so we tailor some of the content based on those learnings, and you're also doing baseline understanding of analytics. So you're pulling a lot of analytics, trying to understand how are these channels performing, how are fans new and old engaging, and it's a bit of a process, but it's iterative, right? So in the creative space, you're taking layers of learnings, and then you're applying them over and over and over again, and that's really where we got to. Some of the things that you may have seen out there. I know Chris Stewart was on the podcast with Grid Life, and he was talking about this inclusive nature that they want to create in motorsports and car culture. And that's the same approach that we wanted to take too, just in a different way, right? We're established. There's a lineage, there's a legacy with IMSA that is very deep. But also, early on, we had a few little light brand campaigns. We were just dripping them into the feed of Racing for Everyone. Yeah. That was a hashtag we used. That was on the end card of some of our videos. And so it was just kind of a welcoming thing that when you come to an IMSA race, and that's one of our differentiators, is you get access to nearly everything. Yeah. You can walk up and down the garages. You can see the cars. You can be one of the people that gets that close, and you can look cool on your social media too.
Hey, thanks for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe, whichever platform you're on, and leave some comments. We actually read every one of them, and it's actually great for the algo. All right, back to the show. And there's so many different, aspects of IMSA, and so many different ways to tell that IMSA story too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what did you do differently the most compared to what you accomplished at in the NBA with the Spurs?
I think it's you learn different business models at all of these places. They're all very different business models. So you have to understand if you're marketing to, another place that I worked was Ironman. And so between the Spurs, you're marketing to spectators and fans and creating fandom. Yeah. At Ironman, you are marketing to fans somewhat, but you're marketing to participants, and you want them to participate in your sport. And then at IMSA, we're marketing to spectators and even the paddock, even the participants in the races and the sponsors and the partners and everything else. And, I think understanding the nuances between those audiences is very important when you're trying to develop that content.
So when someone asks, what is IMSA? What is your answer?
If you like sports cars, you'll love IMSA.
And that is the common answer throughout all of these platforms that you guys are on?
I would say that we're still working on it. We started out with a little bit of Racing is for Everyone. We've put, if you like sports cars, you'll love IMSA, into other things. We also have a brand campaign, Move Over, which is a little bit of a not aggressive, but a little bit more confident way to show that IMSA's coming. Yep. We're growing. There's a lot of interest. Our engagement is through the roof. We've grown our social media platforms over 1 million followers, in the last year. Yeah. And so, based on all of that engagement and growth, we are still serving the core fan. We're still doing a lot of race content, but we're also doing a lot more behind the scenes content for people that might find things interesting that are very on the surface.
Yeah. You mentioned the participants. You have, IMSA has a very complex ecosystem, I think, right?
Right.
Rather than it's not just like one team who's, the star. Say, for example, you have a lot of manufacturers involved. How do you balance the brand storytelling, across your ecosystem?
Yeah, that I think goes back to my days at the Spurs and trying to spread out the team and how people are exposed, and we kind of treat the OEMs the same way. So we think about the storylines that are happening in the sport. Obviously, if there's some storyline happening with a particular OEM, we want to give them their flowers, if you will, and make sure that they get all the attention that they need in the time. But we're also cognizant of OEMs, partners, who's being featured when, and when we need to balance it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about the brands that are outside of motorsports? Is there a different kind of approach in their case?
Are you talking about partners?
Partners, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the key components of a successful strategic digital team is monetizing. There's a business side to this.
Yes.
Right. So it's not just analytics and measurement, it's figuring out how to take all of that attention that you're getting and monetize it.
Yeah.
And a lot of us in digital marketing love to talk about all of these things and cool ways to do it, and augmented reality and virtual reality and whatever the buzzword is of the year, right? But content marketing is old tech, if you will. Content marketing was invented in the late 1930s by Procter & Gamble. Soap operas.
Yep.
That's how they sold soap.
Integrated marketing,
right?
It's in the show. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's a very proven way to market brands. And so when we're working with partners, we want to look at what about their brand has brand equity that crosses over into either IMSA's brand equity and our audiences, and or the people that race with us. And then from that, you can kind of create some storylines. And as long as you're kind of creating a storyline and getting investment and asking just simple questions, a lot of times we make all of this stuff very complicated with strategy. But, our team, we kind of have, when we have meetings, we ask very simple questions like, do we think the fans think this is cool? Yeah. If the answer is yes, all right, check. Yeah. Is anything incorrect? If nothing's incorrect, check. And then it's just a matter of, thinking about timing and the type of theme that we're looking at, and even the style. Yeah. What's shot, and then when are we going to distribute it? When's the best time to distribute it? Is it evergreen and it doesn't matter, or does it have a shelf life on it and we really need to nail a particular deadline?
So when a brand approaches you, or you're approaching a brand, and are those the first things that you ask, like creating a relationship, a partnership with this, water brand or whatever?
Yes.
Is it cool? Is it correct? And what was the last thing that you said?
Is it time sensitive?
Time sensitive, yes. Yeah. So creators and influencers are also a large part of our, internet and social media ecosystem. How do they, what do you think of their role in terms of amplifying brand messages and IMSA messaging?
It's huge. And depending on the type of, particularly in sports, but depending on the type of organization, the type of makeup of that organization, most of these teams are pretty small. Most of these digital teams are, and they rely on being creative with relationships or people that are eager to get involved. Maybe some influencer marketing. I'm personally very skeptical of influencer marketing. In the sense that I've seen a lot of cases where brands have spent a lot of money, brought somebody in, and sometimes they didn't even get the post, right? They wine and dine somebody and it didn't, result in what they would have liked. And, there's a lot of trial and error and testing that I think continues to go on. I've dabbled in influencer marketing for 10 years and very selectively. So it goes back to that. Is it relevant? Does this particular, it's not just do they have 10 million followers. It's do the 10 million followers probably also follow you? and have they invested in your brand? Because otherwise it's going to be kind of a checkbox post. It's going to come and go. And there's a lot of interesting things happening. I think just in the last 18 months, I would say, Alicia Busa out in Laguna Seca, I know, has developed a really good influencer program. She's gone through the process of creating a program around it. So there's a little bit of a vetting system that she worked a little bit with us on. We're also developing our own so that we can identify that relevancy up front. Make sure that we're getting somebody that's enthusiastic about what we do and isn't just there to, check a box or
get a free ride.
Get a free ticket or something. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So how long have you been with IMSA so far? You've been here for a couple
little
of years,
less
right?
than 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah.
What kind of storytelling has resonated the most for you guys so far?
The most, I'm always surprised at how wide the stories can be, in the sense that we've had, certain storylines that get a lot of attention. I know, Robbie Wickens is getting a lot of attention this week. His storyline is very, very fascinating, and the audience is very invested in it. And a lot of the behind the scenes storylines that we develop for every week and even in between the races are everything from, Marshall Pruitt getting very specific on a particular brake system. It's an engineering type of a theme, or it's, having fun with AO Racing and we did an ESPN type piece around the office with Rexy. Just to having the mascot come by the offices. And I will say that the interesting thing about our engagement on social media is IMSA has a very positive, in my experience, audience in general. Right? There's not a lot of negativity on our engagement. That's fairly rare for sports. Especially, when I was in the NBA, a lot of the teams are, no matter what they do, it's like fire the coach. And there's just all kinds of comments after every game of, the refs this. And I find it very interesting that everybody is cheering somebody on and or each other on in most of our posts, as well as, when we went on YouTube and our live chats, we left the chat on. That was a conscious decision, but it's also rare. A lot of organizations that put on the live stream, they won't leave the chat on. And I think that's part of our brand building, is that we want to participate in the community and have a voice and not take ourselves too seriously either, because we can come in there and be very corporate and it'll feel wrong immediately. The vibe won't be there. And so when we're managing the chats and all of the, posts that we do, we're trying to keep that, goes back to racing for everyone and live it. Yeah.
What other pro teams do you think are doing a great job? Like I feel like, for example, the Chargers have a great social media team, and they kind of like play off that, where their position is and everything, and they have a great sense of humor, and they do these like weird memes, and they do spoofs and everything like that. I mean, I think they're doing great. But from your point of view, who do you think's doing a good job on social and marketing in general? I think,
yeah, it's always interesting to me. I often look at teams probably too critically because I'm in the space. I'm a big fan right now of SailGP, and they're a bit of an outlier. They're not quite a mainstream, but they're probably as sophisticated as it gets with the graphics that they use and the engagement, the fan engagement. the sport's exciting. It's, it's kind of a short format, so it's built for social media in a lot of ways. And, Golden State Warriors are always a top team on social. I worked with their team a lot when I was in the NBA. And one thing that was interesting, I think, when I was in the NBA was the fact that on the court, everybody competed, but we had a weekly digital call of all the team leads, and we shared information openly.
Oh, okay.
So if somebody was testing out a piece of software, they'd let everybody know, good, bad. And I think that openness is a big reason why the NBA is one of the top leagues in social media consistently, because there's such a volume of testing and learning going on at a rapid pace.
Do you have that kind of cross pollination between teams on IMSA?
No.
Yeah.
No, we don't yet. I think that ultimately that's a goal of mine. I want to start opening up more. And I think that we have made a lot of inroads in the last 18 months, just on the surface, if not with, social media collaborating and collab posts and things of that nature. We opened that wide open in late 2023 and have had a lot of success. And I think a lot of the teams have seen value, and the partners have seen value in that. But I think it's an ongoing process to develop a program where, with as crazy as our season is, to be able to kind of pause sometimes and be able to communicate with each other to let each other know what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times the collabs that we get are just in the moment.
Yeah.
This thing happened, maybe IMSA will like it, they'll send it to us, we'll accept it.
Right.
Just for context, when I came in, originally the volume was very low on social media. And so to kind of kickstart those accounts, we had, Pete Ripertella on our team and I were posting 500-600 posts per race, high volume.
Yeah.
And we were using a lot of race highlights to do that.
Right.
And over the course of a few months, that kind of awakened the engagement. People started commenting more, and our comments started just going up and up and up.
Right.
And then you see, eventually that volume has a diminishing return. You've got to kind of pull it back and go more quality versus quantity.
And which platforms were those on?
This was primarily Meta, so Facebook
Instagram.
and Instagram. Yep. And that was prior to us going more heavily also into YouTube. So it's a bit of a, pick your poison.
Yeah.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And that's paid off because we got a lot of insights from that engagement.
When did you start seeing the results? Did you see them immediately, or did it take a while?
It took a little while. I would say that probably we started to see the ramp 3 months in. Took about 3 months to get a consistent ramp of video views, engagements starting to grow. Yeah.
And has your team gotten bigger since then as well?
A little bit. We've got about 9, 10 on the team now. And we hired Rob Hunt, who's our digital content manager. He leads all of our social media channels and does a fantastic job. Him and Pete are primarily responsible for all the content that you see coming out of IMSA's social media channels.
How do you measure success? How are you doing that?
There's a lot of ways to measure success. I think that you have your clinical ways of just what are the KPIs. You've got, I think that one of the challenges right now for all creatives is figuring out how to measure success, because we have television metrics, which are completely different. And you got Nielsen, and then you've got all the different digital channels that have their own KPIs defined in their own ways. They're all a little bit different.
Yeah.
And so you have to measure, one metric that we've identified that is somewhat comparable is total minutes viewed. So if you take video content across the channels and you can apply a time watched metric, then you can at least get an idea of, okay, how is our audience consuming our information and our media, and where is it most popular? Yeah. But you go back to your question. I think, how do I measure success? Some of that is just in the office. How enthusiastic is the team every day? I think at the Spurs, that team first culture really hit home with me. And I've always tried to make sure that everybody on the team feels that we're all marching in the same direction towards a common goal. And you can feel that enthusiasm in the team right now. Our entire marketing communications team they're amped up when they come into work. We're all sharing things that we see online. When we see, when we see Racer do something cool, when we see other sports organizations do something cool, we all bring it forward and, man, this is cool. We wonder if we could flip this and do it in our own way, or, riff off of it creatively. And so, team culture is a big thing. And, I know Mr. Doonan is big on team culture. Yeah. So we take that seriously.
Yeah. Having a team, going in the right direction is so important. If you might have a big team, but if they're all walking in a different direction, you get nothing done. Right. So, yeah. How has technology changed the way IMSA interacts with fans? Well, not just social media, but like AI, and there's just so much out there. What are your thoughts on that?
I kind of think about that in a parallel pathway. I'm big on fundamentals, and a lot of times the fundamentals aren't yet in place to be able to leverage all of that shiny object technology that's out there. And so we have a lot of projects in play right now that have dependencies and are kind of building the house. Yeah. Right. We've been pouring the foundation. We've got all the engagement. We've got the eyeballs. We've got all of the numbers. And now we have to figure out the next steps of building more interactive products for the fans. And we're getting so much more real-time insight based off of the engagement that we get on social media, and even in the live chats. The live chats are fascinating. The other, I think, important thing to note too is that, and this comes from the NBA, one of the tenets is that at the Spurs, we always used to say that 90+% of our worldwide fan base will never attend a game. So that, tells you right immediately how important the work that the digital team is doing to bring that to them anywhere in the world.
Right.
And that's the same way we think about it at IMSA. We have our international YouTube live stream, which has been very successful, and the live chat that comes in there. You can feel the passion of the fans through those. It's very conversational. It's very loose, but they'll probably, most of them, never attend a race. So we want to make sure that they can enjoy it through YouTube and or our social media channels through highlights or behind the scenes, because everybody's curious. A lot of people want to know what goes on behind the scenes of pretty much anything in motorsports. Yeah. And that's another question we get a lot is in the chat, how do I get involved? How do I get into it? And motorsports is one of those things where, well, what do you like? Yeah. Just name it, and it's probably somewhere in motorsports. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Are there any experiments that you would love to try out?
Always.
What's your top of the list?
That's a question might get me in trouble because there's some ambitious things I'd love to try. But I think that going back to that dependencies point is that you can try things too early too. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And they can break, and then you can never get another shot.
Yeah. Sometimes it's better to be second in line, right?
You're right.
Let the leader plow the road for you. And just
Yes. Yeah. I've seen that happen a few times.
Yeah.
So, I think we're always taking calculated risks in storytelling. And a lot of our behind the scenes content is really developed from a standpoint of proof of concept. We think this will be cool. We think it'll work, but we won't know until we try it. Yeah. And often creators, I think, in this space get caught in a loop, sometimes with their leadership, depending on where they are in their career, of prove to me it'll work and we'll let you do it, but I can't prove to you it'll work unless you let me do it. And so there's kind of like, you have to be creative with how you approach trying something completely new and make sure everybody's comfortable with it. Yeah. Internally and externally.
What's your advice on, someone who wants to try out something new but doesn't want to get in that position where, like, okay, you failed, so you're not doing anything new anymore, right? That's the risk.
Yeah, I think some of it's patience. Pick your moment. Because sometimes that moment will come and it's that moment, and I think there's been times at Ironman, one of the craziest aspects of my time at Ironman was we had 300 social media accounts. We had
it.
Yeah, right. We had a brand account, we had regional accounts, and then we had race or local level accounts.
Right.
And then we did have digital, managers in other countries. We had to account for 7 languages on our website. And then in some cases we had native language on social media. And in that case, you've got a lot of places you can test things. Yeah. So you can test something that has a little bit of a lower risk on a channel that's not so,
main channel.
It's not a main channel. So sometimes you can look for opportunities like that, your risk is lowered, but you still get enough learning to try the phase 2 of whatever that test is. Live to fight another day.
Yeah, the regional, that's a great point. Do you have channels, second language? Like, do you have channels in other languages as well?
Not right now. Yeah. We don't. We've talked about it, but it is a bandwidth, challenge for us right now. We know that there is specific interest in pretty much most of the places you would expect it to be. Brazil, in particular. And there's probably a point, I'll say this, we did test with a team TASE competition. We got with them and they wanted to do a native language test, and that was a low risk test that we did, and I think we gained 1,500 followers from India doing that test. Yeah. But we also gated it. Yeah. So it was low risk. Right. And we got some learnings off of that. It was very interesting. It was great to collaborate with their team. I think we're looking for opportunities like that, where we have teams that are engaged and want to kind of unlock another fan base, if you will.
Right.
Yeah.
So Brazil would probably be your second channel, or language channel, if you would.
It depends. Yeah. It's it goes back to, I hate to be scientific in my answer, but I'm also, you also have to think about, if you are going to do anything that requires that attention, it has to be authentic, it has to be real, and it has to keep going once you start it.
Yeah.
And so you do have to answer that question. Usually when we're doing any type of experimental projects or tests, I always ask the question, then what? What if you test it and it works?
Is it sustainable?
Then what?
Right. Yeah.
And I think if you can answer that then what reasonably well, even if you've got to bootstrap it for a little while, if you feel like you can bootstrap it, go for it. Yeah. I'm a big believer in get to 80% and launch, whatever it is. Yeah. Because if you sit there and try to make it perfect, it'll never be perfect.
Yeah. So we're at the, Acura Long Beach Grand Prix weekend. What are your specific goals for this weekend?
Well, this is a fast-paced, tight weekend for us. And usually we come in and have several days to kind of get our bearings and get out, grab a lot of content, and get it up on our channels. I think this weekend we have a lot of content that we've been shooting in the days leading up to the race, and those will be distributed through race weekend and then the week after the race. We typically see a ramp of traffic. You guys probably do as well. We see a ramp of traffic into race week through the weekend, and then usually it's through the Wednesday after.
Yep.
And so we're developing content that and trying to prioritize on how timely does it need to be? Is it evergreen? Can it go out next week? And we're constantly adjusting. I would say that we go into every single weekend with a really good plan of what we want to do. Mm-hmm. And every day we're moving one up or one down on the list.
Right.
Just because of circumstances or something didn't happen that we were expecting to happen. Mm-hmm. And that's really the key of a successful digital and social media team, is being able to be agile in the moment
and iterate, right?
And in real time. Yeah.
Well, that's great. We ask all of our guests. Thanks for listening to the Chris Stewart episode, by the way.
Yeah, it was great.
Appreciate it.
I liked it.
What is your creative drive, Doug?
My creative drive is, I would say, puzzles. Big puzzles. And most of the roles that I've had in my career were either because I saw an opportunity of solving something that hadn't been solved before. And when you come in and you're trying to develop brand equity and content strategy and figuring out how to build it, often with budgets that haven't been built for it yet, mm-hmm. and a team that hasn't been built for it yet, that's a big puzzle.
Yeah.
And so, when I was able to have the opportunity, and I talked to Ed Bennett and John Doonan and David Pettit, and they gave me the opportunity to come over to IMSA, it was a goal of mine all along to end up in motorsports. Mm-hmm. And when they kind of told me what their goals and their ambitions were, and of course John's enthusiasm, mm-hmm. got me fired up. And I was looking around and saw so much opportunity here, because there's a rabid fan base. They love it. There's mm-hmm. enthusiasm around it, and that just seemed like a fun puzzle to try to solve.
How much of that puzzle do you think you've solved so far? Sorry, I said it was the last question, but it wasn't the last question. I just had another one.
I think that it's a puzzle that keeps multiplying every time. I think I've been extremely proud of the entire team and how fast they've been willing to try new things. And the success that we've had is because of them. The entire team, the digital marketing team and the communications team, has gotten out of their comfort zone in some ways. Mm-hmm. But we've seen a lot of new success because of that. And as we get those learnings, new ideas pop up, and people are raising their hands and saying, "Hey, we've never really thought about this. Right. We should try this or that." And that's when it gets exciting, when you have people that may have been hesitant before to want to try something, but now they're like, let's go.
Raising their hands, right?
Yeah.
Well, DougODonnell, thanks so much for your time. I know you have a busy week.
Yeah.
Weekend coming up.
You guys as well.
Well, thanks for taking the time to be on the Creative Drive. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks for watching and listening to The Creative Drive, where we offer listeners a candid look into the minds of automotive creators and their journeys. The Creative Drive is available on all podcast platforms, and we have more awesome guests lined up for you guys, so please subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. If you're interested in partnering with us, or if you have any feedback, please email us at podcast@racer.com or DM us in our Instagram. The Creative Drive is produced by Molly Binks from Racer Studio, directed by TJ Keon, creative director George Tamayo, and edited by Andrew Snyder. We've got new Nick, OG Nick, and Morgan on the socials. I'm your host, Taro Koki. Thanks for watching again, and we'll see you next time.